I want to thank you for coming. I also like to thank the North High Junior ROTC. All the flags you see, they put them in last week. They're a great group of kids. And Tony, happy retirement. I don't know why you're leaving, but what are you going to do? I'd like to thank the Vernon Hill Post, especially the Marine Corps League from Worcester. They're great. They always show up. And my name's Phil Mathieu. I'm the president of the Board of Directors for the State Memorial Green Hill, Green Hill. And I'm also the commander of the Worcester Veterans Council. On behalf of the Veterans Council, I'd like to thank you all for coming. And the Willie Grove here too. Jonathan Slavicus, would you give us the invocation?
Gracious God, on this Memorial Day, we remember and give thanks for those who have given their lives in the service of our country. When the need was greatest, they stepped forward and did their duty to defend the freedoms that we enjoy and to win the same for others. God, you yourself have taught us that no love is greater than that which gives itself for another. These honored dead gave the most precious gift they had, life itself, for loved ones and neighbors, for comrades and country, and for us. Help us to honor their memory by caring for the family members they have left behind, by ensuring that their wounded comrades are properly cared for, by being watchful caretakers of the freedoms for which they gave their lives, and by demanding that no other young men and women follow them to a soldier's grave unless the reason is worthy and the cause is just. Help us to remember that freedom is not free. There are times when its cost is indeed near. Never let us forget those who paid so terrible a price to ensure that freedom would be our legacy. And though their names may fade with the passing of generations, may we never forget what they have done. Help us to be worthy of their sacrifice at all times. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Slavicus. Now I'll introduce the MC for today, a Veteran Service Officer for the City of Worcester, Alex Arriaga.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Phil, the Worcester Veterans Council. Now, just so you know, the Worcester Veterans Council, it's an embodiment of everybody here. It's an embodiment of all the veterans services organizations that are in the city of Worcester. Now, I would invite all that are able to stand for our national anthem. I'd like to bring to the podium Mr. Mark Ziemba, from Willie Grell, Camp 25, who will be doing General Logan's orders.
General John A. Logan's Memorial Day Order, General Order number 11, Headquarters, Grand Army of the Republic, Washington, D.C., May 5th, 1868. The 30th day of May 1868 is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, and whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet churchyard in the land. In this observance, no form of ceremony is prescribed, but posts and comrades will in their own way arrange such fitting services and testimonials of respect as circumstances may permit. We are organized, comrades, as our regulations tell us, for the purpose, among other things, of preserving and strengthening those kind and fraternal feelings which have bound together the soldiers, sailors, and Marines who united to suppress the late rebellion. What can aid more to assure this result than by cherishing tenderly the memory of our heroic dead, who made their breasts a barricade between our country and its foes? Their soldier lives were the reveille of freedom to a race in chains, and their death a tattoo of rebellious tyranny in arms. We should guard their graves with sacred vigilance. All that the consecrated wealth and taste of the nation can add to their adornment and security is but a fitting tribute to the memory of her slain defenders. Let no wanton foot tread rudely on such hallowed grounds. Let pleasant paths invite the coming and going of reverent visitors and fond mourners. Let no vandalism of avarice or neglect, no ravages of time testify to the present or to the coming generations that we have forgotten as a people the cost of a free and undivided republic. If other eyes grow dull and other hands slack and other hearts cold in the solemn trust, ours shall keep it well as long as the light and warmth of life remain in us. Let us, then, at the time appointed, gather around their sacred remains and garland the passionless mounds above them with choicest flowers of springtime. Let us raise above them the dear old flag they saved from dishonor. Let us in this solemn presence renew our pledges to aid and assist those whom they left among us as sacred charges upon the nation's gratitude, these soldiers and sailors, widow and orphan. It is the purpose of the Commander-in-Chief to inaugurate this observance with the hope it will be kept up from year to year while the survivor of the war remains to honor the memory of his departed comrades. He earnestly desires the public press to call attention to this order and lend its friendly aid in bringing it to the notice of comrades in all parts of the country in time for simultaneous compliance therewith. Department commanders will use every effort to make this order effective. By command of John A. Logan, Commander-in-Chief, N.P. Chipman, Adjutant General. At this time, I'd like to bring up a Gold Star mother, Tracy Racine.
Good morning. I'm honored to be here today. Like Mark said, my name is Tracy Racine, and I am a Gold Star mother of Private First Class Brian Moakman. For those of you who do not know what the meaning of a Gold Star family is, we are the immediate family members of a fallen soldier, service member. Gold Star family is a title that nobody wants to bear. So today, Memorial Day, I'd like to share with you my reason why this day is so important to know the true meaning of and to always remember why we gather on this day. On May 5th, 2006, My son, Private First Class Brian Moquin, with the Army's 10th Mountain Division, made the ultimate sacrifice along with 9 fellow soldiers while on a secret mission in Afghanistan in support of Operating Enduring Freedom, searching for Taliban and Al-Qaeda militants hiding in the rugged mountains near the Pakistan border. Brian was 19 and my only child. Brian grew up in Shrewsbury and Worcester and lived there most of his life. After high school, he decided he wanted to do something to make a difference. He decided to join the United States Army. He went from being a fun-loving, very active kid who always sought adventure to being a brave young man who was courageous enough to go to a war zone. That was his character. Brian had many friends, and he made new friends wherever he went. He had a contagious personality and a huge heart. He was smart, funny, witty, and was always cracking jokes and always had a smile on his face. He always had a way of making others smile with one of his jokes or goofy faces. When he wasn't on his skateboard, he was very artistic and always drawing, sketching, or creating something. He had a passion for music and loved going to rock concerts and shows. He wrote poetry and song lyrics on a daily basis and kept many journals of them. He was also in a band with his high school friends. But Brian was also like an old soul who loved the music of Johnny Cash and Frank Sinatra. Most importantly, Brian loved his country, the brotherhood within the Army, and the freedom for which he fought. He was a brave, courageous soldier, and I miss him more than words can say. For his service, Brian was awarded the Bronze Star, the National Defense Service Medal, the Good Conduct Medal, the Driver Badge, the Army Service Ribbon, the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, the Afghan Campaign Medal, the Combat Action Badge, and the Massachusetts Medal of Liberty. Each year when I come to these services, I was always accompanied by another Gold Star, Mom Margaret Sotero. And sadly, she passed away recently. Her husband is sitting over here, Richard Sotero. I made a promise to her that as long as I could, I was always make sure that her son would be remembered as well. So I'd like to share with you a little bit about their son, Senior Airman Richard Sotero, Jr. He was from Worcester, Mass., lived there most of his life. He died on October 6, 1994 from injuries suffered in an Air Force helicopter training exercise in Korea. His unit was part of the 33rd Rescue Squadron, operating from Kadena Air Base in Japan, and they had been in Korea only about a week for a month-long training session to provide search and rescue alert coverage for the United States Air Force fighter aircraft assigned to bases in the Republic of Korea. He was 23 years old and the oldest of 3 brothers. Richie is remembered by friends and family as a motivated, dedicated young man, a hero who lived the motto of Pararescue Team, that others may live. He told his mother when he left for deployment that he was living his dream. Richie's final wish was to be cremated and his remains were brought to New Mexico. My son Brian is buried here in Hope Cemetery, so friends can visit him often. Many people say Happy Memorial Day this time of year. Sadly, for myself and so many other families, every day is Memorial Day. My hope is that communities take a moment to reflect about the magnitude of this nationally recognized day and to not forget the many sacrifices that have been made by our fallen heroes and their families. Maybe instead of saying Happy Memorial Day, you could say enjoy your weekend and we'll try our best to remember. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. I'd now like to welcome to the podium our City of Worcester Mayor, Joseph Petty.
Thank you, Alex, and good morning, everyone, and welcome. Welcome our veterans who are with us today, our Gold Star families, our Gold Star mothers, and our guests from the community, and also our elected officials. We have Senator Kennedy with us, we have Councilor Christian King, Councilor Kate Toomey, Councilor Tel Hajiai, District Attorney Joe Worley, State Rep Dan Donahue, Tracy Newwick from the school committee, and also former Mayor Constantine Lewis. Today, we gather on the brave men and women who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the service of our country. Memorial Day is a day to remember those who have given their lives in defense of freedoms and values that we hold dear. When we think of the sacrifice, we often think of brave soldiers who have died on the battlefield. These men and women gave everything they had for their fellow citizens and for the ideals that make our nation great. They were willing to put themselves in harm's way to protect our way of life. It can be found in the sacrifices of the families of our service members, the spouses, children, and parents who support their loved ones as they fight for our freedom. Sacrifice is never easy. It requires a willingness to put something else ahead of ourselves. Whether it's our safety, our comfort, or our own lives. It's a selflessness that inspires us, that challenges us to do better, to be better. The history of Memorial Day goes back to the Civil War. This war over the right to own another human touched every community and every family in America. Almost 10% of the population enlisted in the military. Here in Worcester, 25% of the men in our city fought in that war. And let us remember Frank Woodruff Buckles, the last known living American veteran of World War I, who died on Sunday, February 27, 2011, 3 weeks after Sarbanes' 110th birthday. We also remember PFC Brian Oakland, who died in 2006, who was the last person in Worcester to die in Afghanistan. As we honor the sacrifice of those who have gone before us, let us remember the sacrifices that are required of us today. There are still men and women serving in harm's way. Still families who wait anxiously for their loved ones to return home. We owe it to those who have sacrificed before us to honor their memory with our actions. We can do this by continuing to fight for freedoms and values that they died to protect. We can do this by supporting our veterans and their families, by working to create a society that is worthy of their courage. It's up to us to ensure that the sacrifices of those who have gone before us will not be in vain. We must commit ourselves to a higher purpose, to greater cause than our own self-interest. Only by doing so can we truly honor those who have given everything for our country. So let's take this Memorial Day as a reminder of our duty, our responsibility for those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Let us honor them by living up the ideals that they have died for, by being the best versions of ourselves that we can be. Thank you. Before I just want to thank Phil and Dee for putting on this event with Alex and everybody in the Parks Department for really making this cemetery beautiful for us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd now like to welcome to the podium our City Manager, Mr. Eric Batista.
Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to represent the city of Worcester as we memorialize the men and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice in service to our nation to protect our safety and freedom. Franklin Roosevelt once wrote in reference to the Bill of Rights that we hold sacred, "Those who have long enjoyed such privilege as we enjoy, forget in time that men, and I will add women, have died to win them." In fact, we gather today every year precisely to make sure they will never be forgotten. It is our civic duty to remember those who sacrificed everything and the friends and families they leave behind. To all those who have lost loved ones in the armed services throughout the years, including the Gold Star families and veterans who are here with us today, I offer my deepest condolences. While it is impossible to fully repair the sacrifice, know that our city family will always have them in our thoughts and prayers. Worcester has a long history, storied history, of producing men and women of all races, creeds, and cultures who were brave enough to don a uniform and dedicate their lives to serving this country. Going all the way back to the Revolutionary militias, assembled to overthrow British rule in the region, to those who fought to preserve the Union in the Civil War. Worcester's sons and daughters served overseas in 2 world wars, in Korea and Vietnam, and in Iraq and Afghanistan. We must also remember the countless conflicts in between, where Worcester residents have served and given their lives as allies, peacekeepers, and guardians. The memories of our fallen servicemen and women are held here among the serenity of Hope Cemetery, as well as the Vietnam and Korean War memorials that we will visit later today. These landmarks, along with the more than 230 veteran squares across the city, ensure that Worcester will never forget the lives we lost. Lives like those of Henry Joseph Ansel and Walter Paul Ansel, 2 brothers who died 6 months apart during World War II. Henry in June 1944 in Normandy shortly after the D-Day invasion, and his older brother Walter in January 1945 in Luxembourg during the Battle of Bulge, serving under General Patton. They were young men with their whole lives ahead of them, who selflessly departed their home to join a war fought on foreign soil, and they gave everything to protect the freedoms of their families and friends and even strangers around the world. Henry enlisted just a month after his 19th birthday. Walter, who worked at Norton Company, followed suit about 8 months later. Following their death, as was common at the time, both Henry and Walter were buried in Europe, before later being exhumed and brought to their final resting place just across the way at the Notre Dame Cemetery in 1948. Today, they are memorialized by the Ansel Brothers Square in front of the St. Christopher's Church and Ansel Brothers Memorial Bridge. Their legacy also lives on in the family they left behind. In Walter's son, Walt Jr., a.k.a. Chicky, a retired Worcester police officer of 42 years, whose final memory of his father was seeing him leave for training, duffel bag in hand. I am pleased that Walter, his daughter Cindy, and grandson Owen and Austin are here with us today. And they're over there. The Ansel name also lives on in Henry and Walter's younger brother, Stanley, also a retired Worcester police officer. Today, Stanley's son, Bobby, is an active officer, along with John Ansel, whose late father, Paul Jr., was also on the police force, was Henry and Walter's nephew. While Worcester is proud to call the story of the Ansels and their lineage of service its own, there are so many similar experiences shared by families across the nation. We can never replace Henry and Walter, but we can carry their memories and honor in our hearts. I also would like to thank the Worcester Veterans Council and the Division of Veteran Services, Alice Arriaga, for making this ceremony possible. I also want to recognize Vietnam veterans for the community who partnered with the division to distribute 23,000 flags to mark veterans' graves around the city. And also thank you to the veteran organization and posts and students from North High School and my alma mater, and other volunteers who gave their time to place those flags that you can see today. So as we stand in the final resting place of so many who served their country, may we take time to reflect on how their sacrifice allows us to enjoy our freedom today. So I want to thank you, and God bless all those who served and died for this country. Thank you. We would now like to point out that we will be doing a firing 21-gun salute. So just to let you guys know that there's going to be some noise. That will be followed by taps.
Detail, attack, cut! Right, hey! Forward, arm! Iron position. Detail, freeze it! Hot! Ready! Aim! Fire! Ready! Aim! Fire! Ready! Aim! Fire! Recover! Lift! Aim! Freeze!
like to call on everybody to hold a moment of silence, to really truly think, reflect on all the sacrifices that have been talked about today, but are visible here at Hope Cemetery, where we have the various wars, the various people that have sacrificed their lives so that we may be here.
Good morning, everyone. How's it going? It's a nice day, beautiful day, and oh Jesus, okay. Is this all right now? Can you hear me now? All right, we got a few Gold Star families here. We have the Castigian family, Harry and Gail. We got the Roy family, Phil and his wife, and there's the Shines family here. I don't see them.
Down in front of you.
Oh, there they are. Yeah, they're hiding by the water. No fishing down here, okay? No fishing. Today we had to remember the names behind us here. All who gave their life for their country. I mean, it's something, but when you've been in combat, like I was, you get guys that you get killed, and the thing that amazes me now is when there's one little incident in school, they got to bring in all the psychs and all of that jazz because the kids are terrified. Let me tell you, I was 19 years old and I was terrified. My pants, actually, because you go over there, you never seen anything like that. One guy said to me, how do you like it? I said, well, I was hanging around a corner at Main South. I never got mortared. I never got attacked. I never got hand grenades thrown at me, any of that. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But it's a day of remembrance, and let us remember all these fallen brothers and sisters. Okay, now we'll have the... is Roger here? No, that figures. We don't have free hot dogs. Well, let us pray. Lord, please help us remember all those who have perished in all the wars. And unfortunately, some will probably perish in more wars, which is the way the government does it. But we're sorry about that. We wish to bless them and thank them for what they did, the ultimate sacrifice. Amen. Oh boy, I hope the Lord didn't hear me. It struck me by lightning. As you can see, I dressed up like a priest. I can see why the nuns were so bitchy when I was in school. Bitchy, yeah, the nuns were so bitchy when I was in school, wearing all that black. All right, Harold, you want to sing a song? Harold's going to sing a tune. He's got a good microphone. Go ahead, Harold.
Okay, so I have done this song here many times, but it's appropriate. It's called North and South. And in Massachusetts, we had men... Huh?
Mike's not on. I got to shut this.
It's on. No, mine's on, right? Yeah, you guys can hear it.
Yeah, see, they can hear out there.
Huh?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm not talking loud enough, or I am?
You are now.
Okay. Anyways, it's called North and South, and, you know, listen to the words, and you'll see why. I sing this often up here. especially on today. They never asked if the war was right or wrong. Instead they heeded the country's call. Fought and died for America. Their names are written on a wall. From the north and south, from the east and the west, oh, from cities both big and small, from the rich and the poor, all colors they bore, all their names are on the wall. All their names are on the wall. They were bright young poets that would never write. Fathers who will never see their children grow tall. As old and as young as they'll ever be. Patriots all on the wall. From the north and south, from the east and the west, oh, from cities both big and small, from the rich and the poor, all colors they bore, all their names are on the wall. A brother's name is on the wall. A sister's name is on the wall. A mother's tears fall at the wall.
Thank you, Harold. Now we'll have Mayor Petty say a few words.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's an honor to see everybody here today as the crowd grows every year to pay honor to those who made the ultimate sacrifice for their country. So welcome to Gold Star families, the Gold Star mothers who are with us today. Thank you for your sacrifice here too. You know, back in the 60s and 70s when people from Vietnam, the veterans came back, they weren't welcome. We can never overcome that, but we've come a long way and we still have a long ways to go. Say thank you to the veterans who did come back and for your service to this country. I also wanted to thank the Marine Corps Week who's with us today and the American Legion who's with us today and also our friends from Vietnam every year who's with us today. And also Phil, I want to thank Phil on the Veterans Council for organizing this every Veterans Day and Memorial Day. And also Sean Lovey from the Worcester Police Department, who does all Worcester and all veterans, and he does a great job playing the pipes. But I just want to thank everybody for coming out, and I'm proud to see you all here today. It makes a big difference to our veterans and to our families who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Now, City Manager, Eric Batista.
Thank you, Phil. Good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to stand here before you to present the city of Worcester, to represent the city of Worcester as we gather to remember all those who made the ultimate sacrifice during the war of Vietnam. Worcester is supremely honored to host the Massachusetts Vietnam Memorial that pays tribute to the state's 1,536 men and 1 woman who died during that war, as well as 235,000 veterans who survived. And also we celebrate the 50th anniversary when the Vietnam War ended this year. Their stories and memories will forever live in the places of flags that were placed today, the place of words and the place of names here in the heart of the Commonwealth. The wreath that we will lay today signifies the commitment of Worcester and the entire state to never forget the heroes we lost. To never forget the heroes we lost. I want to thank the Worcester Veterans Council and the Division of Veteran Services for helping to organize this ceremony. I also want to thank everyone who's joined us here today. You could be anywhere else on Memorial Day, but you choose to be here in a moment to pay your respects. I also want to recognize Vietnam veterans for the Vietnam veterans for the community who helped our Division of Veteran Services distribute over 23,000 flags that you can see across the city. It's wonderful to see many veterans here today, and I know that you live every day to ensure that your brothers and sisters will never be forgotten. I also want to thank the Gold Star families who are here with us today, and I extend my sincerest condolences to all of you. While we can never replace our fallen men and women, we will always remember their unmatched bravery and sacrifice. So thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Eric. Councilor Kate Toomey.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you all for being here to remember these valiant men and women who gave their lives in defense of our country. And I want to thank all of you here today for making a difference in changing the whole philosophy, the whole feeling towards the Vietnam War, the Vietnam veterans. Through your grace and your class, you have changed the perception of a Vietnam veteran. They are our heroes, and they deserve the honor that you're showing them today. And I want to thank you all for the sacrifices you made, especially for our Gold Star families and our Blue Star families, and also our veterans who have really given part of their lives to protect our freedoms and those of others in the world. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Kate. Christian King, City Council.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here today on Memorial Day. Just this morning, I was able to remind my 6-year-old who I just dropped off what Memorial Day means. It's the ultimate sacrifice. We should remember today and every day that it's those sacrifices of your loved ones, of your friends, allow us space in this country and in the city for everybody, for different religions, different races, different ideas of how we move forward. But it's an absolute beautiful thing to sit here and think about the sacrifices. And I always say on Memorial Day or Veterans Day, an extra special thank you as well to the families, to the children, to the friends who served along with those folks and those soldiers, those brave men and women who have sacrificed. So thank you, enjoy today and every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Andy Donahue, State Rep.
Thank you, Phil, and good morning to everyone. It's wonderful to see so many here today gathered to remember those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. To our Vietnam veterans, first, welcome home. We so thank you for your service, and to our Gold Star families, thank you for your service. We think of you today in particular, but each and every day to the sacrifice you and your family have given to this country. It's wonderful to be here at the Commonwealth's Memorial, but also a city's memorial. I think on a day like today, I'm always impressed in how Worcester remembers. We've gone to Hope Cemetery this morning, or if you're driving around the city today, to the dozens and dozens of squares that are marked in memorial to those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Worcester remembers, and I want to particularly thank Phil and his group of veterans who continue to bring that legacy and the history to our next generation, to the school kids, by bringing them up here today and sharing those experiences. So Worcester doesn't forget, we'll always remember. And thank you so much for being here.
Now we'll have Joe Early. I think he's done doing his honeypot list. I'm not sure. He got one though from the wife. Oh, here he is.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here today with all our veterans and your families. Thank you to the Gold Star families. And thank you, Phil, and to everyone who keeps this a meaningful representation so that we'll never forget. This really is truly one of the most beautiful tributes you can pay to our veterans. And I want to thank Phil Medallo for helping to keep it very unique.
Diana Biancaria, school committee. Diana, that's you. I just said your name, Diana Biancaria.
Good morning. I have to tell you, I'm not only honored, but this is such a privilege because I live right down the street and we come up here many times. And during the week, we see a lot of people walking around looking at the walls in the names. And it still amazes me. So many years have passed, but the memories are very clear of my cousins and when they left and my aunts crying at the stairs. And that never leaves you. So I look out today and I see so many faces that we've seen over the years that come to pay tribute. And I can only say that once again, it fills my heart. So thank you for being here today. And I truly hope that it's not the only day that you come here, that you bring people here, because this is such a beautiful place and such a beautiful tribute. And it really is a very, very important part of all of our history. Thank you and God bless.
Sue Mailman, school committee.
Good morning, everyone. I want to tell you that my first husband, not to be confused with my second husband, served in Vietnam. He graduated from Burncoat in '68, and he went to Vietnam in '69. And so we come here to honor his service and all the other servicemen here as well. And mostly to acknowledge these families who have lost so much, and nobody ever forgets, and it doesn't matter how much time goes by. Your loss is incredibly significant, and we honor you today with everybody here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Alex Aliaga, DSO, Veteran Service Officer for the City of Worcester. Forgot to read.
Thank you, Phil. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yes. All right. I guess I'll use my military voice. Today we gather to honor the brave men and women who served in the Vietnam War and made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our great nation and the values that we hold dear. Their bravery, resilience, and unwavering commitment to their country deserved our highest respect and gratitude. This year, as the manager mentioned, we celebrated here the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was a challenging and divisive conflict that forever changed our nation's history. It was a conflict that demanded great sacrifice from our military personnel, many of whom were drafted against their will. Our Vietnam War veterans fought with courage and dedication, often under harsh and challenging circumstances. Their sacrifices were prodigious, and many of them continued to bear the physical and psychological scars of their service well after the war, to later succumb to those wounds, both visible and invisible. The sacrifices of our service members
embody the ideals of diversity, resilience, and resourcefulness. They come from all walks of life and backgrounds, but they share one common purpose: to defend our nation and our values. As Lincoln once said, it is altogether fitting and proper that we do this. Through their service, they have taught us that resilience is the key to overcoming any obstacle. They have shown us that resourcefulness is essential to meet any challenge, whether it be on the front lines or in support roles, as did their families. We acknowledge the enormous debt of gratitude we owe for their service. Moreover, we recognize the sacrifices made by the families of our Vietnam War veterans who held the fort at home and provided unwavering support to our troops overseas. As we remember and honor those who served and paid the ultimate sacrifice in the Vietnam War, let us also reflect on the lessons we learned from that conflict. To our Vietnam veterans and their families, thank you for your service. Thank you so very much to our Vietnam community represented here today. He has been at all events since yesterday, and I just want to extend my gratitude for that. Thank you all so much for being here. And from the Division of Veteran Services in the city of Worcester, I really appreciate your support to this community and to all of our veterans. God bless.
All right, let's hear a rip-roaring clap for this guy, because he controls the money. This is the guy I like to speak loud. He's got the heaters that we need to keep this going. Jimmy O'Day.
Good morning, everyone. I may be afternoon by now with all the speeches you've had to hear. No, really, it's an honor to be here today. And as Phil did say, I am somewhat proud that the state legislature and the delegation here, the Worcester delegation, makes it a priority every year, to make certain that this park continues to have the resources that it's necessary to keep it so pristine, and to make sure that our state never, ever, ever forgets what transpired for our Vietnam veterans and the sacrifices that they made. And we have individuals from across the Commonwealth that come here. And my sense is, as looking out here today, that many of you don't only come here today, you come here on other occasions to pay your respects and really to just sort of drink in the beauty of what goes on here. And really the work that Phil and his group of colleagues and friends do on a, I think, weekly or monthly basis, when they continue to educate our youth about what the Vietnam War was all about, and they tell the truth about what the Vietnam War was all about. Now, 50 years ago, I know you'll find this hard to believe, I was only 19. But the only combat that I saw was in my father's bar. So, I know that there are gentlemen here, Phil being one of them, that, I knew kids 18, 17, 18, 19, 20 that were going off to Vietnam. And I certainly wanted no part of it because I was scared to death. And so, we think about youth today, and it's still our youth that go and serve. So I'm here to say thank you to all those that continue to serve. Thank you to those of you who have served. And obviously to those Gold Star families whose sons and daughters paid the ultimate price. Thank you all. It's incredible to see you all here today. Understandably, it's a beautiful weather day, but to come here and pay your respects as you do is greatly appreciated. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. I forgot to introduce Judy Pulsifer from DAB over there with her husband. Yeah, you can raise your hand too. You, raise your hand. There you go. Okay. All right. All right. Mr. Who's in charge over there? Duffy, there you are, Duff. I couldn't see you behind a tree. I thought you were a sniper. Prepare your fire in detail.
Captain! Hut! Right! Hey! Detail! Present! Up! Prime position! Ready! Aim! Fire! Ready! Aim! Fire! Ready! Aim! Fire! Cover! Lift! Aim! Freeze and arm! Order! Detail! Order! Halt! Detail! Forward! Rest!
Yeah, I can.
I was going to sing another song, then we'll have the closing prayer, benediction
Order!
from Chaplain Irie Ryder.
I come into this place, flags are flying high. Talking about this place right here. I come into this place, flags flying high. I turn to my left, letters are in my sight, letters from fallen suns, letters from fallen suns, oh, to their mothers and loved ones. It's the 10th of May. We searched all day, in the middle of the night, I begin to write. Everything's alright, everything's alright. Don't worry, Mom, everything's alright. Hey, Mom, I got that package today. Oh, those chocolate chip cookies were great. Thanks a lot. Oh, Mom, in your last letter, you said that Dad wasn't feeling too well. Sure do hope he's feeling better now. Oh, Mom, would you give Joey a hug for me? I sure do miss him. Oh, don't worry, Mom. Everything's all right. So I turn towards the path. Granite walls I see. The letter I just read is now haunting me. Everything's not alright. Everything's not alright. Mom, give Dad a hug tonight. To the place and names I go, I know a few. The letter I've read has now come true. Everything's not alright. Everything's not alright. Oh, don't worry, Mom. Everything's alright. Oh, Mom.
Thanks, Howard. There's a couple of guys here. John Maralotti, Casey Pulaski. Behind him, Joe Roulette. Who else? Gary Swenson. Who else is here? Harold, of course, myself. We're all Vietnam veterans for the community. And we're the guys that bring the kids up here to teach them about the war. And like Jimmy said, I don't hold any punches. I mean, when I'm talking, it's X-rated, actually. But hey, you got to tell them the truth. You know what I mean? It wasn't no picnic over there. So we tell them the truth. And all Vietnam veterans today, welcome home, brothers and sisters.
Welcome home, Phil.
And the thing is, finally, everybody wants to be a Vietnam vet. There was 3 million of us that served in Vietnam, and there's 10 million claims in. So figure that one out, okay? Everybody wants to be one. Harry, could you please give us a closing prayer? Harry Ryder, Vernon Hill Post, 435 Chap.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Harry Ryder. I'm formerly the chaplain at the Vernon Hill American Legion Post 435. And I was asked preemptively to say a closing prayer, so I'm going to do my best. So please pray with me to whatever God you or higher power you hold close to your heart. Father in heaven, we ask that lest we never forget, we shall not forget the sacrifices of our service members who have gone forward, who don't ask what the mission is. They take the mission and they execute. None of them said, why am I doing this? And many of them became heroes, and they had no idea that they would become heroes. They didn't want to become heroes. And so I say to the families, I hope you receive solace and some sense of thankfulness from the community who knows what you have gone through. I have had to make 2 official notifications to families, and there's nothing worse than that. But the bottom line is service members go in harm's way and they don't ask for forgiveness, and they don't try to have a mission explained to them. They execute. So ladies and gentlemen, let us never forget, and let us say thank you to the sacrifices of our Vietnam veterans, all of them, males, females, and every service member who went to Vietnam. Thank you so much. Welcome home. God, we ask you this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Harry. I'm just going to say a couple things here. I served with 3 great guys who were killed over there November 7th, right after I left. Their names were First Sergeant Pascal Poulard, who fought in World War II with his uncle, Korea with his father, and was killed in Vietnam because he didn't want his sons to go, but they ended up going anyways. He's a great guy. And Bobby Stryker, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Stryker vehicle.
Yes.
It was named after him and another guy who was awarded the Medal of Honor. Bobby was Medal of Honor recipient. This guy hated the service. When I ever got the call, I couldn't believe it. They said there was 8 wounded guys laying there, and the VC had set up a claymore, and the guy went to push it, and Bobby went over and covered it up. And you know what happened, of course. But it was a great guy. And Ronnie Payne, who was had like a week and a half to go, and he decided to go out on patrol, and he ended up getting killed too. So those 3 guys that I think about all the time. And there's Clarence Venato, I think about him. My sergeant, Charles Johnson from New York, I think about him. I think of the days he was cut right in half right next to me. I was his RPO. I don't know why they missed me, maybe because I was so skinny then. But it was, you know, you don't forget this stuff. And that's the thing when people say you're in combat. They're in combat. Like some of the news stories I hear, oh, it's like a war zone. They wouldn't know what the hell a war zone was if it hit them in the ass. Really, you know, a little bit here, a little bit there, but that's it. Now, I want to thank the Marine Corps League, the Vernon Hill Post, the Vietnamese families, and everybody here. Thank you for coming. This is it. And of course, Sean Lovely's going to play another tune. Thanks everybody for showing up. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Detail. Left hand. Hut. Right. Face. Follow left. Left.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this great, deep, serious afternoon. I'm so proud to see all my fellow Korean War vets here today, those who can make it. And of course, we are also happy to have Mrs. Benoit and all of our legislative leaders here. So I'd like to turn, we've never had a veterans agent this good before. I want to welcome them. And welcome number 5 Marines.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming here today. I'd like to start our ceremony with the invocation by Reverend Jose Perez Jr. of Rock of Salvation, who is the son of a Borinquenier of the Korean War He has done a lot for this community and was here previously in our ceremony for the Borinqueniers, who have a section here at this Korean War Memorial.
Dear God, on this Memorial Day, we come before you with heavy hearts, remembering the sacrifice made by those who served our country and gave their lives for our freedom. We pray for the families and loved ones of those who lost their lives in service to our nation. May they find comfort and peace in the knowledge that their loved ones made the ultimate sacrifice for a cause greater than themselves. We ask that you watch over and protect the men and women who continue to serve in our armed forces. Give them strength, courage, and wisdom as they work to defend our country and uphold the values of freedom and justice. We also pray for our leaders that they may have the wisdom and compassion to make decisions that honor the sacrifice of those who have gone before us and safeguard the rights and freedom that we hold dear. We ask this in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Thank you. Now, those who are able, please rise for our national anthem. I would now like to welcome to the podium Mrs. Betty Benoit, who is the widow of Roy Benoit, who was in the Chosin Reservoir, a Korean War veteran, combat veteran, and awarded the Purple Heart.
Memorial Day is the day we set aside to remember fallen heroes, those brave souls who gave their all for their country, fighting in Korea and other wars, never flinching from their duty, whatever they were called to do. The fallen sacrificed their lives. Their families sacrificed the rest of their lives. They will never see what their loved one's life could have become. They won't share life's trials and triumphs with them. They will never again see their smile or share their warmth on a cold winter's night. They live in a sea of grief and will carry that wound for eternity. So we ask, God, bestow your tenderness and grace, especially on those families whose loss can never be repaid. God, preserve this country for which they gave their lives, and give us all the wisdom, humility, and virtue to fully comprehend and gratefully acknowledge their sacrifices, and let us always remember that freedom is not free. God bless America. God bless Korea. God bless the fallen and their families.
I would now like to welcome to the podium our Congressman Jim McGovern.
Well, thank you, Alex. Let me begin by saying I feel grateful. I feel grateful to all of those who served our country during times of war, who paid the ultimate sacrifice. I feel grateful to all of the veterans who are still with us for giving me and my kids and my family the opportunity to live in the freest country in the history of the world. We cannot thank you enough. We cannot honor our fallen heroes enough. And I think it's important that as we gather here today in their honor, that we continue on with the example that they have set, the example of service to our community. And every day I think we have an obligation to try to make our community and our country and this world a better place. So again, I thank all of you for being here. I want to thank the families who are here as well, who also sacrificed greatly. And again, I am so proud to be with all of you here in Worcester and in the United States of America. Thank you so much.
I would now like to welcome to the podium our City Mayor, Joseph Petty.
Thank you, Alex. Good afternoon, everyone. And good afternoon. And I'm proud to be here today and stand with you, with our elected officials, District Attorney Joe Worley, Senator Michael Moore, Kate Toomey from the City Council, Sue Mailman from the School Committee, former school committee member Diana B. and Carrier, and of course our veterans who are all here today from the Korean War. And Frank Carroll, thank you for being here too. And it's an honor to be here, like I said, and say thank you. You know, it says here, forgotten no more. It was the forgotten war, and the city of Worcester is proud that we've never forgotten our veterans and the people who died for this country to protect our freedoms. And just want to thank Dee, Phil, Alex Arriaga, veteran agent, for everything they did this weekend, with the sign of the water ceremony, Hope Cemetery today, Vietnam, where all the names of the Vietnam veterans are on the granite stone. Also the names here in the brick. Because I'm proud of a city where we remember everybody who served this country and who died for this country. When you go over to the Common, you see the Civil War Memorial, the World War II Memorial, World War I, and World War I up in the Green Hill Park area. And and that's a tribute to you, a tribute to honor those who died for us. And so I just want to thank you. I want to thank the Korean War veterans who are here today. It's good to see everybody. And 70th anniversary is coming up in July since the end of the war. So we'll see you then. Thank you.
So I just wanted to say a few remarks from the Division of Veteran Services in the city on behalf of the City of Worcester administration. On this Memorial Day, we gather to pay our respects and gratitude to the brave men and women who served in the Korean War. We honor their selfless service, sacrifice, and commitment to duty. The Korean War was a war that tested the limits of our country's resolve and the courage of our soldiers. It was a conflict that demanded extraordinary sacrifices, and our Korean War veterans answered that call of duty with honor and distinction. The Korean War was harsh and unforgiving conflict that claimed the lives of far too many of our brave service members. We remember and honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice, and we extend our deepest sympathies to their families. We also pay tribute to those who were captured or missing in action during this war. We will never forget their sacrifice, and we will continue to work tirelessly to bring them home. Their service in Korea helped secure a brighter future for the people of South Korea and uphold the defense of freedom. Their resilience and bravery have made our nation stronger, and their legacy will always live on in the halls of history. May God bless our Korean War veterans and their families, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. I would now like to welcome Dee Dively, who is going to introduce the people that will be bringing up the wreath.
Thanks, Alex. And I'd like to thank Tom Monville and Paul Mullaney for being here, and anybody else whose father has passed. It's good to see you. I'd like to have Tom Sear, Joseph Genduso, Paul Davis, Robert Prout, and Frank Carroll. Please place the wreath, and Betty, you can come with them.
Marine Corps League, Perry Fire and Detail. I'd now like to welcome back to the podium Reverend Jose Perez, who will give our benediction.
We thank you, Lord, for allowing us to gather here to honor the memories of all that went before us, all the soldiers that gave the ultimate sacrifice. We honor and we ask that you protect all their families and that you strengthen our country and that we continue to shine all over the world for your honor, for your grace, for your for everything, Lord Jesus, that you have and given to this nation, to this country, and to all its citizens. We ask you that you continue to bless us in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. And thank you to everyone that attended this ceremony today and the ones that attended the previous ceremonies on Sunday, the water, today at Hope, and at Vietnam. It is important for all of us to remember that during Korea, over 36,000 people died. They laid their lives so that today we're able to enjoy the liberties that we do enjoy in this, our great nation. With that said, please enjoy the rest of your day. Know that the things that you're able to do today and moving forward are not free, and they have a cost. It's laid out to bear here in this memorial and the other ones in our city. Thank you.